Hey, what's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of the Persistent Entrepreneur Podcast, Path to Mastery. Today we're with Amarpreet from Humantic AI. How's it going, sir?
Very well, David. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely, man. Pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us. And today we're going to talk about probably a topic that everybody's keeps hearing about right now is AI and I talk about sales. That's kind of my thing, and we're spending a lot of time as well figuring out how do we incorporate AI into our sales process to make it more effective. So, really excited to have this conversation with you today.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
And so we'll start off. Just kind of tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your company, Humantic. Tell us, what does your company do, and kind of how did you get started on this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, my name is Amarpreet Kalkat. As you see, this is my second Humantic AI is my second SaaS startup, second AI startup. So, I've been doing AI longer than most people. You could say around 10 years actively and a little bit longer passively. So, interestingly, right at Humantic AI, our work does straddle the sales domain as well. So, uh, what does Humantic AI do, and how do we help sellers? So, imagine you're a salesperson walking into a conversation, and today you will typically go and do the same thing with everyone, isn't it? You've taught a technique. This is how you do discovery. This is how you do qualification. This is how you pitch. And then, of course, you win some, you lose some. Typical sellers' win rates tend to be between 15 to 20%. But there's a rare breed of a seller that has win rates at not 15, not 20, not 30, not 40. The top sellers have a win rate of 62%. So we often tend to say that these people, they just have it, right? It's just an art. Selling is an art. So, but the central theme of that art, our belief is the ability to understand the person on the other side of the table and sell to them from a approach that they value. So we call it buyer first selling. And what is Humantic AI? Humantic AI is a way of adopting buyer first selling. It is a technology that has its core a behavior prediction AI model. And before I've spent a second with anyone, I can get to understand what they care about, how they think, how do they perceive risk, how do they perceive value, and modify my approach, modify my interaction from calls to emails to everything towards a place that makes the other person say, yes, this is exactly what I was looking for.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's actually phenomenal. I mean, so what I teach in my sales process as well is when people see us as the solution to their problems, it makes the sales process super easy, right? It's not even like a sales
Absolutely.
process. It's just like they don't ask you about price.
Absolutely.
They don't. It's just like, okay, what do we need to do, right? So you're using a behavior. What is it? Behavior. What? Say. What is it? Predictability analytics.
Behavior prediction, personality prediction. So if you're familiar with the DISC
I
personality
am.
profiling,
Yeah.
it's DISC personality prediction. Yes.
Okay. So you're using the DISC assessment. So you're going to know if somebody's a D, an I, an S, or a C on the DISC, and then
Right. But
adjust your
yes,
presentation.
yes, but we don't need a test, so we just know that about everyone. So you go into a meeting, so you're meeting someone for the first time ever, and we will be able to tell you exactly what they're like, and then build up a whole profile around it. Just starting with a disc, but there's a whole profile around that's guiding you as a salesperson.
All right. Well, so first off, I mean, I'm pretty high level myself on the disc. Just because I have a lot of experience with it in the past. I used to teach a
Yeah.
class at Keller Williams a long time ago. It was fun. We used to do the paper. I don't know if you ever saw the paper disc. There used to be this is going back 15,
I've seen it.
17, 18 years. Yeah, we used to give them everybody
Yeah.
would do a paper disc, and it was fun. But why is that important for people listening that aren't maybe as familiar with the disc as you and I?
So I would say disc by itself or personality by itself is important. I think what is important is the ability to understand what the other person values. That is, anyone who's been selling sales long enough, David, and you've been definitely knows that is the key, right? Understanding what the other
Mm.
person values. It is an art, right? Some people are very good at it. That's the reason 17% of the sellers actually bring in, I think, around 81% of the revenues at a typical company. So we turn that art a bit into science, but that is really the core of it. Disc and everything, it's a proxy, right? Because when I spend 30 seconds on your profile, looking at how you think, what matters to you, I invariably start thinking from your perspective. And that is the difference maker, nothing else.
So did you actually look at my profile, or are you just saying that as a general statement to everybody? So when I spent 30 seconds looking at your profile.
I look at every profile. In your case, there were more David Hills, than I imagined. So I could not, find you. So, but once I
Okay.
find you, I'm gonna try to do that. So
Well,
normally,
that's my fault then. If you can't find me, that's my my fault. If I can't be differentiated from all the others, so we'll get that figured out soon. But I mean, I'm a super high D. I mean, that's if you, I would say I'm a D, but I've got a lot of I that I've developed over the years.
yeah.
But for people that are just chiming in, explain to them though, like how knowing, like, so are you talking about like, let's use cold calling as an example, right? We have a lot of clients that cold call.
Right.
And say cold call, say in the real estate space, they would be calling people that are selling houses by themselves. They could be calling people that had homes on the market that didn't sell, and now they're calling, trying to get them to switch agents. It could be people calling, they want to get them to switch from the current insurance provider they're using to, getting a quote from them, and evaluating the pricing and stuff like that. How would this help in those cases?
So, in fact, we work with a couple of companies in the real estate world. I think one of them, I suppose anyone who's in real estate would have heard of Cushman and Wakefield. So,
Commercial,
we
yeah.
understand. Yeah, so we've done some work there. I think the fundamentals of selling never really changed. So, for example, let's just take residential real estate for a second. There is a person out there who who's willing to spend money for the right location. Other things being equal, of course, someone has a budget and someone doesn't have a budget is separate, right? People have constraints, but uh, people have different level of appetite for people value things differently, and there's someone out there who probably wants most security, right, in terms of where their house is, versus they want a access to a cool neighborhood. A lot of it, could you tell it about people? We do it all the time, right? We try to guess it. That is how we do things today. We try to guess it. We meet someone, you know David, you said you're a high D, right? You know that's how sellers have been taught. Oh, if someone has a firm handshake, they're likely to be a high D, for example. If someone speaks in an awkward manner, maybe they're a C. If someone has too many doubts and questions, maybe they're a C. But now you know this, and now you start leveraging that, right? So if you're meeting, for example, a C type personality, they are going to have a gazillion questions. I take a look when I meet C type prospects. I go there, I'm very calm. I'm expecting, people to have questions, doubts. I don't try to brush over information. I try to give them all the details. That's where you want to, give them the exact details. But you talk about a DI, the DIs, they are not going to get into the nitty gritties of every single thing, right? The D to some degree, the I, lot less so. a lot more people, a lot more relationship. So my point is, again, if you know, then you can leverage it better. But what we have done is, where you don't really need to know this, can understand this. You simply read a profile that the AI outputs for you. Or if you're sending an email, you just click one button, the AI is going to write that message in the right manner for your recipient. So yeah.
That is great because I mean, obviously, I use ChatGPT and I use Gemini and
Yeah.
I've been using it for a while, so my GPT knows me pretty well, knows my style, knows how to write, knows to be succinct and professional, and so but I love the fact that I never even thought about adding like, hey, this email is going to somebody that is a D
That's the point.
on the
That's
disc
exactly.
personality. And yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think, I've been doing the sales so long, I can talk to somebody for 15, 20 seconds and I can pretty much get an idea of who I'm dealing with, right? But most people aren't able to do that. So
True.
I think so how does your so if somebody's like talk to us about the process. So how does your system know ahead of time? Does it go through like social media? Does it how do you know? And then I'm assuming what happens is somebody has your system and then it's going to say, hey, you're dealing with this person. Does it actually give them like suggestions, prompts, what to say, stuff like that as well?
All of the above. All of the above. So to your point, social media, yes or no? You know, private social media, absolute no. But we look at LinkedIn. So we built an AI model that can take a person's LinkedIn profile, and that is what we largely use to provide this
Oh, LinkedIn.
prediction about your prospect. So yes, if your prospect is not on LinkedIn, for example, your prospect is maybe a blue collar physical job kind of a person who might not be on LinkedIn, then at least today we cannot really help you. But if you sell into any kind of white collar professionals, the system's going to work. So yes, it's only LinkedIn. That goes into our AI model, which we've built, fine-tuned over the years, and out comes, in around 8 to 10 seconds, one this whole prediction about how do you sell to them, how do you call them, how do you email them,
Mm,
how do you negotiate with them, and second part, and we're a fairly enterprise, focused product in many ways, but second part, then we combine it with generative AI, like what you said, you using ChatGPT to write emails like you, but who is the email for? It's not for you, right? It is for your recipient. So should it be written in your style, or should it be written in the style that your recipient is actually going to value? I mean, I get it.
mm,
We all want it to be in our style. Like I am a D myself, so I like to just get to the point. I even forget to put people's. I'll just say this, that. Let's just get it done. And sometimes I slow down. I go back and then I add a pleasantry, or then I add a something nice, funny, witty, or anything at all. So that's the
mm.
second part. You combine it with ChatGPT. Now you are selling the way people want to be sold to, not the way you want to sell to them.
Yeah, that's a great point too. And then I would say like I wouldn't say I'm so much selling, designing emails in my style as
Right.
more of a professional email that's really
Yeah.
succinct and clear in the messaging. Because that's one thing I've never, even though I wrote a book, two
Yeah.
books, I had ghostwriters for my books, right? Even though I'm a great
Yeah.
speaker and presenter, writing has
Yeah.
never been one of my strengths. So now
Yeah.
it's kind of, but I just absolutely love adding that additional element of, hey, this person receiving this email is this spectrum, right? And so yeah, that to me that's absolutely brilliant. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see when it comes to sales? And I'm going to go back to your model. You said the buyer first selling. What are some of the
Right.
mistakes you see when it comes to that model?
I mean, there's so much that can be better, but again, our belief is that a central mistake we make is that we we are trying to sell right from our perspective. So we don't manage to get into the skin of the prospect, right? We don't manage to truly internalize their problems. Like I was talking to someone today, and he said something beautiful. He said, if you can empathize, right, truly empathize with a prospect, right, and put yourself in their shoes, I think that is the starting point. That is the starting point. That is when you start becoming a very different kind of seller. So till you can get to that level, you will not really manage to solve the biggest problems. All the data out there, keeps bringing us back to the same point, right? All the data keeps, uh, telling us that that ability to understand, deeply understand what the other party's needs are. And I like to say needs and wants, right? Needs and wants are two different things. That to me is pivotal to how effective we can be as salespeople.
Yeah, and just to be clear for our listeners, you've said the word seller a lot of times. When you're referring to seller as a salesperson, is that correct? Not like a seller of real estate, but an actual salesperson.
Yes,
Is
I
that
mean a
correct?
salesperson. So yeah, that's right. Yes, I salesperson is exactly what I mean.
Okay, okay, cool. So I want to so the future of sales, AI driven strategies. Give us so let's talk about this. So I want to talk so the future salesperson, how are they getting set up for their appointment? Like what's the first step?
So so there are two ways, David, we can look at it. See, one is um, steps in a process, right? That's kind of the funnel view, if you will, right? So what's first, what is second? Second, I would say, is the conceptual view. So in the conceptual view, if I talk about that, for a minute, I actually write a Substack. I write once a month, first Sunday of every month. It's called Sold with AI, and I wrote about this few weeks ago, a few months ago. So if you break down a pursuit, right, like I call it the anatomy of a pursuit, anatomy of a deal pursuit, there are four central actors at play. The the salesperson, right? The rep, let's just call it rep. We'll not call it seller. Let's call it the rep. The salesperson, the buyer, the deal, right? The deal and the account. So again, in the world of uh, real estate, residential, etc., there might not be an account, but I'm talking from a B2B perspective here slightly.
Sure.
Let's take commercial for a minute. So account, deal, rep, and buyer are the four pieces. You need intelligence about all four of these, and there are tools today that give you intelligence about various pieces. If you can bring these four together, what's happening in this deal, what is this rep doing, what does this buyer want, and where does this deal stand today, or where will this go tomorrow? I think combining those four pieces of intelligence is really central to how effective we can be with selling.
Hmm. So name the four again. Okay, I got yeah.
Yes. So account. So
Yep.
it's yes, account, buyer, yeah, and seller and deal. So it's kind of ABST in some ways you can call it. So account
Got
that you're
it.
selling to, buyer that who's buying, seller, the seller as in the sales rep, right? The salesperson who's selling, and of course the deal, right? I mean, where does So four.
So when you say account, what does the account represent?
So account represents. Let us say I am trying to sell something to Cisco or IBM. That is the account. So
Got it.
Cisco has needs or doesn't have needs, right? And needs, we call it the needs of the company and the wants of the buyer. If you are selling to consumer, then the account and the buyer are the same. But if you're selling in a B2B world,
Yes.
then the company has needs and the buyer has wants.
That's I love that. I love that distinction. All right, so the account, so that makes a lot of sense. If you're selling to a big corporation, then you need to understand the needs of the corporation as well. All
Yes.
right, and then as far as the buyer is what? That's the prospect. Is that what you're referring to? or
Yes, the buyer is the prospect in a corporate B2B sense. Depending on the size of the deal, it can be a large buying committee. There can be 10 people on the buying committee on the other side. There's one generally one person with a checkbook, but there are other people who influence the deal or have a role to play. So that's your buyer or buyers.
And then what about the salesperson, seller? Does that factor into this equation of these four things?
So the salesperson factors in terms of their capabilities, their skills. So is the salesperson, for example, making the right pitch? The leader, if again, um, if I'm working in an organization, right, where there's 1,000 salespeople, the leader is concerned, saying, "I've got this Amarpreet fellow. Is he making the right pitch? Is he able to handle objections the way he's supposed to handle? Is he able to, give out pricing the way it's supposed to be?" That is the seller, right, or the salesperson part coming in. Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing at a level of quality at which they're supposed to be doing? That intelligence often, like, I review, for example, my salespeople's calls fairly actively, and then I go back and give them feedback and say, "Hey, you handled this well, but this one you should have tackled it like that."
How do you review the calls? I mean, are you reviewing them or is AI reviewing them? What's that process look like?
So today, it's so far it's mostly been me randomly, right, reviewing some calls, and but it is, as you absolutely right, it is changing. AI is at a place where AI can review your calls, and it can bring a fairly decent degree of feedback in terms of what's supposed to be done. It'll still probably not get to the level of an expert leader, right? Some pieces, it will miss, but the fact that it can do it at scale actually makes it very, very useful.
All right. All right. So I love we kind of went granular with a lot of your product, which I think everybody should connect with you if they want to get more details on it. I'm certainly going to get myself more details on it now because I
Perfect.
think
That
it fits with what we're building. We're building AI agents. We
Yeah,
already have two agents, one that does incoming, and we have one that is SMS outbound and inbound. What are
got
your
it.
thoughts on agents?
Agents evolving very fast, becoming capable. 6 months ago, I wasn't convinced about agents, like especially autonomous agents. And I have been doing, like I said, AI longer than most people. Most people. So I wasn't fully convinced because they were still immature. But I think the technology is maturing so fast that since around the January, I feel agents and autonomous agents, right? Not just assistive agents, but agents that can just do things on their own. I think they're becoming possible. They're becoming real. They still have issues and gaps, of course, but then so do people. So there's many scenarios more towards a smaller transactional selling that can be automated even completely using agents. But as the deals become complex, as the deals become large, I don't see anyone out there giving out a $10 million deal to an agent, right? That is still being given out to a person, and that person will use AI to assist them. So, but a $100
I
deal or a
agree.
$1,000 deal, that definitely, people are okay giving that to agents today. So agents are becoming quite capable, and it's maturing so fast. We don't know at what point they will handle bigger deals tomorrow. That's for sure.
I think absolutely, but I mean for us right now, it's more just it's follow up, and
Yeah,
it's a pre-qualification, and then we're salespeople right now. We're the ones closing the deal still, so we're just going
yeah,
and we're finding all the gold mines, the gold nuggets, and the people that haven't closed, going back into people's databases
yeah,
as well as handling incoming
yeah.
calls and messages. So I mean, and so many businesses are struggling because they don't have a system. They're losing out on so many opportunities because they don't have a system for follow up and they
True,
don't have a system for
true.
handling all the inbound leads, and then they call once and then give up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, you've been in this space since 2014, and 2014, I'm gonna be honest, I had no clue about AI. I think I was listening to maybe Gary V talk about voice, just using voice to
Yeah.
do everything, which is pretty much what I do now. Very rarely am I going to type anything. It's always my voice. But
Yeah.
what do you talk? How have things come together since then, in your opinion? And do you think we're ahead of where we should have been? Are we behind? And like, what do you think? What do you see as like what's next?
So, David, I have a very nuanced take on this whole matter, and it could easily look like, this guy is contradicting himself. But that's the reason I want to call out that it's a nuanced take. So let me give it to you and to the listeners here and see what they think and what they make of it. Like I said, I have been walking the AI journey, living the AI life very long. Yeah. 10 years actively, but the passively, it actually goes way longer than that. Some of the things that I have been doing as a builder, often and
Or was
often.
it called? Let me
And
before you're going to continue. But was it called AI back then? No, it probably wasn't. Was it? Must have been.
it
Was it called
was,
AI?
it
Really?
was. So what people don't know, this is probably the fifth coming of AI. AI's had four or
Really?
five waves since 1960s. For example, before ChatGPT, the earlier big wave of AI came around 2016. That was when, that led to some of the ChatGPT stuff, but that was when a breakthrough around image analysis, etc., happened. Before that was around, I think, 2009. There were some big breakthroughs. Before that, around 1998, 99, that's when I got interested in AI. By the way, so
Really?
my AI journey started before that 80s, and before that late 60s. So AI's come and gone. This is of course the biggest it's ever been, right? It never went
Of course.
mainstream fully. So this is the first time it's gone mainstream. And what's happening, the way I look at it today, is it is big. So I actually spoke at a conference a couple of years ago, Sandler Summit, if you know. And
Yeah,
I
of
I
course.
said this, yes, I said, look, AI today is probably bigger than the internet. So I did call it bigger than the internet. However, I do think people are often overestimating AI capabilities today and what AI is able to do. So the analogy that I give for that, I told you I was talking to my mentor and I was sharing with him this analogy is, why does that happen? Uh, See, imagine, let's go back 200 years ago. Yeah. When, let us say 200 years ago is fine. Let us say we don't know how far the moon is. Okay. So we don't know how far the moon really is. Like we know it's far out there in the sky, but we don't know how far it is. And there's no mechanical device to like throw something up in the sky and shoot towards the moon. So the best that someone could do is throw with their arm, and someone's got a really strong arm and they can throw a stone, maybe, I don't know, 50 meters high, right? 100 feet high. Then someone built some kind of a contraption which can throw this stone, I don't know, a mile into the sky. Now you'll say, well, yeah, this went really high, but the moon is still far, far away. But then someone comes along and actually builds a machine that can throw a stone 1,000 miles into the sky, right? At what point, that point, what happens? At that point, people say, holy crap, this throw almost touched the moon. Maybe it actually did, because 1,000 miles is like mind-boggling, right? To someone who's only seen things go up 100 meters. But guess what
Mm.
is how far the moon is? The moon is bloody 380,000 miles. That thing did not even get to within 1% of, you know, the distance to the moon. But because it's unfathomable for the human mind, when something that's only gone a mile goes 1,000 miles, we think we have touched the moon. So I have that little bit of a take. I think people are overexcited, uh, but it is evolving, like I said, so fast. I would not say that, oh, this is going to stay here. We could have AGI in a few years. You don't know where it's gonna go. It's evolving super fast, but we're not where people think we are. We still have a long way to go.
Well, I agree. We have a long. I think I'm excited about that, man, because I'll tell you what we're doing with it right now. I would say we're probably in a very small percentage of businesses that are, building agents, and not just building automation, which is what I think a lot of people use. They just use a
Yeah.
high level automation with a lot of prompts and stuff, but actually building agents. And if we're not even, imagine like what we can do in the future with some of these agents. It's actually kind of scary.
Oh
When
yes.
and
We
and I know
we
you
should be
mentioned
scared. Yeah.
AGI,
Yeah.
and we're not even going to get into that conversation today, but I definitely want to do this again. I'd love to continue this conversation and have you on again. And because I want to continue, and I know we had kind of a short window today. But
Yeah.
if you're open to it, I'd love to have you on again as a guest. We could even do it probably in the next couple months and kind of talk more about the AI, because it's a topic that I absolutely love, man. So thank you. Before we wrap, tell our listeners first how they can get in touch with you. That's the first thing. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. I am the only Amarpreet Kalkat around, so luckily, so it's very easy to find me. I'm super active on LinkedIn as well as active on Twitter. My email ID is my first name or my last name at humantic.ai, so I should be easy to find.
Okay, awesome. And what are you most excited about going forward now with AI?
I mean, I am excited about all things AI. Like I said, I have been an AI buff forever, right? And its potential and what it can do. It amuses me a little bit, when people sort of misunderstand it in both good ways and bad ways. But it is going to permeate our lives in every shape and form, and it's actually doing it very, very quickly. Uh, I keep telling people, and maybe I should end on that note. Uh, I think two things that people need to keep in mind. One is that we are moving from a deterministic world to a probabilistic world. So AI is inherently probabilistic, right? It is not 100% right. It could be 99.9% right, or 99 or 89, which is very different. We are not used to that world. We fail to realize. Second is the importance of the human element, right? The human connection. So that keeps becoming more valuable as IQ kind of things, keep getting automated by AI, and the EQ kind of things, keep becoming our, unique strength. So I think that is the opportunity. That is what we got to hone further. We, in many ways, we try to use AI to help people leverage, right? That's essentially what the core of the Humantic AI product is. That's where our name comes from, humanizing AI by
Mm.
helping people understand each other better. But I think those two things I would leave with the audience.
That is great. Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think, I mean, at least not yet. It might be a long time before it happens, but right now, I don't see AI replacing the
Yeah,
salespeople or the salesperson, right? Or as you call it, the seller. But it certainly is going to make the seller a lot more effective if they use it the right way. That is for
absolutely,
sure. Yeah. So, well,
absolutely.
I appreciate your time today, man. I'll look forward to connecting again. And for all you guys, hey, make sure you give Amarpreet a follow, connect with him on LinkedIn, and check out his product. And also, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast. Just go down below. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a review if you would. Amarpreet, I'm looking for a nice review from you as well. Give us a nice 5-star
Absolutely.
review.
You got it.
If you or give me a 1-star. I don't care. Give me something. Give us something, because it all helps, right? And that said, appreciate you for being here today, and we're going to do this again.
Sounds good, David. Let's do that. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.